What is going on, guys? It's Triple G here, back with another Borderlands 3 video, and today we're going to be going through episode 2 of the Essentials, and this time we are covering Moze. So if you missed episode 1, I will put a link in the description below, but essentially what we will be looking at here is we want to be going into the raid boss, and we want to be going in there first time and being successful. So we're going to be talking about what it is in our backpack, meaning that we don't have to return to Sanctuary. Guys, if you enjoy this video, please consider subscribing to the channel, or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week. And otherwise, let's get straight into this video. Okay, so first of all, let's talk about the raid boss itself. We have not seen this raid boss before. We do not know what we are going to experience. So let's talk about the build that I'm going to use first. I've decided that I want to use my bottomless mags, just powerhouse of GT Shorty. Really dependable. We're never going to have to worry about ammo. We're always going to have a ton of damage, and we have a ton of survivability as well. So GT Shorty is on my YouTube page. I will put a link in the description as well for this build, but this is the build that I am going to when I first attempt the raid boss on Moze. So let's cover the gear in its entirety, but start off with what I'm going to actually have in my 4 slots and my equipment. So the crit is going to be one of the first weapons that we touch on here. Now, if you didn't know, the crit was recently buffed. This is a Moze weapon. Go and tip the jar on Moze's area and you are going to get the crit. The crit is extremely powerful. It has lifesteal. The only caveat to that is on reload, it can slip out your hands. However, this particular build never reloads, so that completely nullifies that kind of ill effect that can happen with this weapon. Next up, we have a Tizzy, one of my personal favorites. This particular anointment is next 2 magazines. Next 2 magazines, or next 2 magazines 125% incendiary, whatever it is, those are the critical things for this build. Essentially, the way the gameplay loop works on this build is you're going to jump into Iron Bear. You can use it, you can not use it, but when you jump out, you will have next 2 magazines anointment activated. Now, you're never ever going to reload, which means that you are going to get that extra 100% damage in whatever element the anointment is 100% of the time, meaning there is nothing that can stand in front of you that won't die. Absolutely brilliant. So the Tizzy here is one of my personal favorites. Then, of course, we're going to be going, our main weapon of choice is going to be between this weapon and the next weapon. So here's the plasma coil, packs a serious punch. Next 2 magazines or 200% splash would be what I recommend here. I would definitely go with next 2 magazines over 200% splash and have a couple of these plasma coils on you with a bit of a mixture. The plasma coil only comes in radiation and shock, so you're going to want the next 2 magazines anointment to be something different to that to allow you to get that elemental mix. Then one of my personal favorites, the flipper. Now, I would carry 4 or 5 of these, and what I would do is I would have next 2 magazines, which we have here is shock, but I was also double down. So for example, here you can see I can flick between cryo and shock, and then I have next 2 magazines shock. So I can have double shock on this weapon, meaning that I'm going to do really good damage against shields. Now, if this is a Varkid, and traditionally super badass Varkids, they go and have armor bars, I would have a double corrosive flipper, or maybe a DNA in here with next 2 mags corrosive, so that we can do with tons of damage. I'm not actually a fan of the Monarch on this build, so you won't see the Monarch in here. So this is how we're going to do the most DPS consistently, by holding the trigger down. The plasma core has those bursts, but the flipper just has that constant stream of damage. So next up, we'll move on to shields. So shields don't really matter too much for this build, and the anointment doesn't really matter too much either. It's down to your personal choice. Now, I've chosen a plus ultra to give me that extra health benefit and the extra shields if I do go in and out of Iron Bear. But as I said before, we're not going to be using ASCs, because once we've used that Iron Bear, we'll have that permanent damage. So we're not going to be needing to jump in and out of Iron Bear very frequently. So shields is over to you. You could use an old god here as well, which would give you extra elemental damage for when you are doing those, you know, elemental weapons and stuff like that. But for me, I like the plus ultra because it gives us more health. And then there is a nice reason for that. When we move on to our com, yes, I am using a sapper. Now, one thing you'll notice about this build is we do not lack in damage. We definitely don't lack in damage. But what Moze can sometimes do is go down into fight for your life quite often. With the sapper, we will never go into fight for our life. if you are holding down the trigger and aiming at a boss, and as long as you're hitting damage, you will never, ever, ever, ever go down. You can just hold, you can keep yourself up no matter what damage is hitting you. Now, this is really critical on a build where you're never reloading. If we were to reload, we wouldn't be shooting at an enemy for a period of time, and therefore we'd probably go down into fight for your life. But you've got a nice chunky boss in front of you. Hold the trigger down on that boss and let everything else hit you. You just can't die. This particular sapper is a very, very good one. You'll see here I've got pistol, SMG and weapon damage on it. I was extremely lucky with this roll. And you'll see that I'm rocking pistol and SMGs, so it would definitely be the one that I would look for. You could use a minesweeper if you wanted to. We don't know at this point about critical hit somewhere we're going to hit this raid boss yet, but you could use a minesweeper for bossing, and it very well may be that the minesweeper is the comp to go for in the future once we know exactly what we're going to get with this raid boss. But for now, I want to survive and I want to do it first time, so the sapper is the comp that I'm going to go with. Onto the artifact now, the Pearl of Ineffable Knowledge. There is an argument for a victory rust, but as we covered in episode 1, we don't actually know if we're going to be surrounded by badasses. So the Pearl just works really well here because we're going to keep it constantly charged with our CMT, with everything else going on. So the Pearl is definitely the one that I'm going to go for here. I don't have a level 65 one in the right role here, so just a level 57 one here will still do the trick for me. And then I do have a level 1 CMT. You don't need to use this. Any grenade really is completely of your choice, but use on grenade thrown. As I said previously, we are not going to really be throwing grenades. We don't need grenades to heal on this build because we're using the sapper. So it's just about getting that periodic grenade thrown because they're going to regen on their own, just to give that extra bit of damage at times. So that's it for the main equipment. Let's look in terms of what's in the backpack itself. So first of all, I have a prompt critical here. This one is in URAD. Now, if push comes to shove, we may have to change to some URAD. It still works pretty well with the sapper, so I will be carrying something like a deathless or a front loader with me just in case, but I don't think I'm going to ever need to change to that. Also, next 2 magazines on the prompt critical also works really well. It's good for tidying up ads as well. You're never going to need to worry about ammo with this build, so you can just kind of take what you want. A dark army just for a bit of a change as well. Then I have a hotfoot teddy, a recursion because I might be able to chain through some ads to do some quick mobbing if need be. I have a critical thug, a plague bearer. Now this plague bearer I've taken out of my 4 slots, but I probably will put it back in place of the crit. So the plague bearer, if you didn't know, has a special ability that will automatically track enemies. If our raid boss is surrounded by ads, then the plague bearer is going to be the one for us. I'll probably take a couple of different flavors depending on what the ads are going to end up as. And Moze makes exceptional use with this plague bearer. You can solo most content with just the plague bearer alone. And remember, ammo's not a problem with this build, so you can just keep spamming away. Absolutely brilliant. The final weapon is the Boogeyman. These are just weapons that I probably won't use in the raid boss. We're not going to run out of ammunition, so these are just backup weapons if something comes up in the raid boss where I need to like snipe something or just do something different, I have something available. For comms, I do have a bloodletter. I have a transformer here, you know, just in case. Action skill start won't really do anything for this particular build, so I'd probably change it to a different anointment. I have a madcap here in case I need to increase my shields for some reason, but I probably won't ever need to do that. Then I have a action skill start stinger, because why not? You know, it's a great shield. Then I do have a blastmaster if I am struggling to do damage. In terms of artifacts, I can't see myself ever turning off a pearl, but that being said, I do have a deathless if I want to rock some URAD, and I will be throwing a couple of URAD weapons in here. I have an atom bomb white elephant for when I'm using my rocket launchers. It's going to be harder for me to charge my pearl while if I'm using the plague bearer exclusively. So I have this white elephant atom bomb. The artifact doesn't matter. It's about the passives here. I've got area of effect damage, heavy damage, and weapon accuracy on this one. Another deathless with heavy radiation and mag size if need be, and it's a snowdrifter. If I need to get around this map quickly, I have that with us as well. So again, you can see here another deathless with good passive rolls. You can see the theme here. These are just in case artifacts. The stuff that's in my primary slots are probably not going to change throughout the whole one. In fact, it's probably one of the easiest essential videos that we will do because Moze doesn't have to worry about ammunition. The couple of other things that we have on here as well are a couple of different crits with different flavors, and we have a URAD hail here and an iron cup active. Again, this anointment not perfect, so the only things that I will be adding to this backpack is a couple of flippers in different elements. I want next to magazines flippers, but in different elements, so I can double down on those health or armor or shield bars if they, you know, we don't know what we're getting. If they come along, we have it there. So that is it for the Moze Essentials videos, guys. I really hope you've enjoyed this video. I enjoy shooting them. If you do agree or disagree or want other things in your backpack, let me know in the comments section below. If you have enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing to the channel or join us over on Twitch. We stream 5 times a week, and otherwise I'll catch you on the flip.